Everyone, it's Nicole Nowosad here today for Jillibean Soup. We're going to create this fun Mix the Media project. First thing you need to do is pick one of your favorite Jillibean Soup silhouette cut files. There's many here, as you can see, in the silhouette store, and I've gone ahead and chosen a couple for my project. I like to kind of design the project in the silhouette software, so I usually draw the shape very similar to the wood plank that I'm going to use, as well as kind of space out the words and even some circles for some flowers in the software, just so I can kind of get an idea of how everything's going to look when I'm done, so I can cut it out. So I've gone ahead and I have gathered my supplies. I have a galvanized word, one of these lovely oval wood planks, some Happy Hues paint, some of the great Jillibean Soup flowers. I have die cut out the words "Lives Here" from the silhouette store. I have some painting supplies and a stencil that I've cut in the shape of an oval. That's just from cardstock. You can also use stencil material. Because this is a very simple shape, I took a risk and did it out of some simple cardstock. And what I'm going to do now is just place that oval in the center of my design on the wood plank, because that's where I want to paint. And then I'm going to line up the actual cardstock stencil here and hold it down with some washi tape. You could also use painter's tape, just something that's going to keep it sticky and secure while you paint your wood surface. If your surface is a little bit uneven, you might want to give it a light sanding. Mine was pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Now the key to this is really in how you do the painting. Around the outer edge here, you don't want to add a lot of paint. Be careful that you go very slow with this, just a tiny little bit, and pounce it up and down along the edge of your stencil. If you use a very thin stencil for a word, for example, you need to be very particularly careful. This oval is a good one to start with because it's kind of a little bit forgiving. And you can see I'm just dabbing with a makeup sponge very, very lightly along the whole edge, kind of working my way from the top of the stencil inwards onto the design, really brushing it on lightly. And you just want to build layers of paint around the edge. If you do it too much, you're going to get a seepage underneath your stencil, and that's just going to look really funny and be a big mess to clean up later. There is an opportunity to kind of clean it up yourself later on, but really to get the best result, I recommend you use a small amount of paint and just tap it on and work your way from the outside in. Really thin stencils make it difficult, and actually a stencil brush is the best thing for this technique, especially with a thinner stencil. I just don't happen to have one on hand. So I'm going to continue to build my paint. I actually, because of the amount of paint I want to have here in the center, I'm just going to glob that right on top of my wood surface and then paint it in the grain direction of the wood. So you can see I'm kind of going with the grain of that oval slats, and I'm just painting it on. And when I go anywhere near the edge, I'm really working from the outside in towards the center. I'm not ever pushing the paint out from the middle to the outside. Always go from the outside in, and then just continue to add up your layers of paint. It's better to go slow and start with a little bit of paint. You can always add. It's really hard to take it away. So just make sure that when you're doing this, you start slow, got to be a little bit patient, and just build your layers of paint. So keep going until you're ready with the look that you want. Once you get all the paint on that you want, just make sure that you go over top with your brush strokes to make sure that you don't have any splotchy areas. And I'm just doing that really quickly here. And again, the wood can take quite a bit of paint, so don't worry about if you need to touch up some certain areas. You can squeeze a little bit on there. It does soak up quite a bit of paint, so make sure you use a really good paint that has some good coverage. I'm just going to fix up my brush marks, and I'm just using a foam brush. You could definitely use anything, even a spray paint works great. You gently remove your stencil, and you can see I have some seepage. So what I like to do is, while the paint is still wet, I take my X-Acto knife. I have one that's not quite as sharp as it used to be, and I just use that to go around the edge of the design and just scrape off any paint. I have a little bit of a paper towel off to the side, and I'm just kind of, as I scrape off the paint, I'm wiping it off. You gotta let it dry. So you gotta let this dry at least an hour, even more, depending how much paint you've put on. But you have to let it dry. You can't really rush this. It's not one of those things that you can rush, so you gotta let it dry, do its thing, and if you want, you can do a slightly distressed look by just adding some sanding. So I've sanded my area, and I've got the look that I want, and now I'm just taking a black journaling pen, and I've decided I want to make like a little faux stitched border around my oval shape. So I'm just taking a marker here, and I'm going around the edge, leaving a slight gap from that white paint rim with my journaling pen. Sometimes the paint will glop up your marker, so you may have to scratch off on a scratch pad like I'm doing here, but no worries, you just keep going around until you have the whole design, the faux stitching all the way around. And that just adds a little tiny detail to your design. So now you're ready to kind of decorate. I have my galvanized word love, and I've gone ahead already and added some foam adhesive to the back. I added them on with a glue dot. These are the craft Zots, and then I've added another one of those Zots on top, so it's nice and sticky and nice and high. I wanted to have like a bit of a shadow on the design when I was done. So I'm going to set that to the side. I'm going to get my vinyl design that I've cut adhered with transfer tape. So as you can see here, you just rub that design onto the transfer tape, peel off the backing, and line it up. Because those lines are on the transfer tape, it makes it so simple and very fast. And you can reuse that transfer tape over and over again. So now that's all on there, I'm just going to place my word love in place. I really love the height and the texture that gives. And although these felt flowers do have adhesive on the back, I like to add a little bit extra. I find just need a little bit extra sometimes depending where you're going to place this in your home. And so I'm going to add some of those glue dots, or even a hot glue gun works great. You can adhere these right to the wood surface. They take this really well, and push them firmly in place. I really love this particular pack of felt flowers because they come with these already pre-stickied felt leaves. So I'm just going to stick a couple together and then adhere them around my little floral cluster that I'm building on the top part of the frame. They stick really, really well. I've never had a problem yet. And just going to get that placement again, just kind of figuring out where I want to have everything, and that's it. So you can just see some of the details here of the painting and the stitching on the wood. Really easy to do. This is a project, aside from drying time for the paint, you can have done in just really a few short minutes. And that's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Check out all of them on our YouTube channel or on the Jillibean Soup blog. Have a good day.